The Desert Fox wasn't just a war film. It was Cold War propaganda disguised as biography, a sanitized portrait of Hitler's favorite general that sparked international riots, destroyed an actor's mind on set, and convinced America that rehabilitating Nazi officers was necessary to stop Soviet expansion. Behind those heroic images of Erwin Rommel commanding Afrika Korps lies a production history soaked in government manipulation, international protest, and the cynical transformation of a Wehrmacht field marshal into a tragic hero. Jewish organizations launched boycotts. Warner Brothers canceled bookings on direct orders from the studio boss. An actor suffered a stroke during filming and spent his final years institutionalized. The State Department tried blocking German release. And when the dust settled in 1951, this controversial whitewash had become Fox's fourth biggest hit of the year, while permanently reshaping how the world remembered Germany's most celebrated general. Here are 20 dark facts about the Desert Fox, from the Jewish actor who played Hitler to the government agencies that approved every line of dialogue. Number 20. Zucco's stroke ends career. British character actor George Zucco arrives on the Fox lot to play Field Marshal Gerd von Rundstedt. At 64, he remains a working actor with decades of experience. Then, during production, everything ends. Zucco suffers a severe stroke on the set of The Desert Fox. The medical emergency is catastrophic. He collapses during filming and never recovers enough to return to professional acting. The stroke damages his brain so extensively that he requires permanent institutional care. Fox immediately replaces him with Cedric Hardwicke. For Zucco, it marks the end of his career and the beginning of a tragic decline. He spends the remainder of his life in and out of sanitariums, his mental faculties severely compromised. He dies in 1960, nearly a decade after the stroke destroyed him. The production doesn't pause. No memorial appears in the credits. Hollywood treats him as a replaceable part. Number 19. International riots before release. The Desert Fox triggers international protests before most audiences even see it. In Vienna, demonstrators riot outside theaters. The Austrian government bans it entirely, refusing to allow exhibition of a movie that glorifies a Nazi general only 6 years after the war's end. Vienna still shows visible scars from Allied bombing and Soviet occupation. Milan erupts in violence. Protesters clash with police outside cinemas. In Australia, veterans groups organize boycotts. Men who fought Rommel in North Africa find the film's heroic treatment of their enemy personally insulting. Argentina faces its own protests. The country harbors numerous Nazi refugees in 1951, making the film politically explosive. South African audiences protest the humanization of a Nazi commander. The international backlash reveals how raw World War II wounds remain in 1951. Americans might be ready to rehabilitate German officers for Cold War purposes, but Europeans who lived through Nazi occupation aren't interested in redemption narratives. The geographic distance between Hollywood and the battlefields it depicts allows American filmmakers to sanitize history in ways European audiences find revolting. Number 18. Warner's boycott on orders. Harry Warner watches The Desert Fox and makes an immediate decision. Warner Brothers will not book this film in any theater the studio controls. It's an extraordinary move. Warner Brothers doesn't produce the film, Fox does. But Warner Brothers operates theater chains, and Harry Warner uses that power to block Fox's film from as many screens as possible. Warner's decision stems from personal conviction. He's Jewish. His studio produced some of Hollywood's most strident anti-Nazi films during the war. The idea of now glorifying a Nazi general disgusts him. Warner also remembers what happened in 1934 when Nazis murdered the Warner Brothers German representative Joe Kaufman. Harry Warner doesn't forget. He doesn't forgive. The boycott cost Fox significant revenue. Warner Brothers controls or influences bookings at hundreds of theaters across America. Each cancellation represents lost box office. Fox executives fume about Warner's interference, but can't force him to book a competitor's film in his own theaters. Number 17. Jewish war veterans boycott. The Jewish war veterans of the United States don't wait for the film's release to organize opposition. These aren't protesters disconnected from military service. These are men who fought against the Wehrmacht, who landed at Normandy, who liberated concentration camps. The JWV coordinates with other Jewish organizations, including the National Jewish Community Relations Organization and the American Jewish Committee. Together, they represent hundreds of thousands of American Jews, many of them veterans. The coalition demands that Fox cancel the film entirely. When Fox refuses, the organizations mobilize for a nationwide boycott. They distribute leaflets outside theaters. They organize picket lines. They pressure theater owners to cancel bookings. In cities with large Jewish populations, the boycott proves effective. Some independent theater owners decide the controversy isn't worth the trouble and drop the film from their schedules. Fox responds with publicity, emphasizing the film's anti-Hitler message. The Jewish organizations aren't convinced. Number 16. State Department blocks release. The State Department spends months trying to prevent The Desert Fox from being released in West Germany. This creates a bizarre contradiction. The same government that authorized the script's production now wants to suppress the finished film in the very country it was designed to influence. When production begins, American officials believe a sympathetic Rommel portrait will help convince Germans to accept rearmament and North Atlantic Treaty Organization membership. By the time the film finishes, they worry the timing is wrong. German politics remain volatile. Elections approach. A film glorifying a Wehrmacht general might inflame anti-American sentiment. State Department officials recommend delaying release indefinitely. But state can't actually block the film. Fox owns the rights. The studio has already sold German distribution. The American government can recommend against release, but it can't legally prevent distribution. Fox delays German release but doesn't cancel it. The film finally opens in West Germany in August 1952, 9 months after the American premiere. The 9-month delay costs Fox revenue. Number 15. Johnson's 8-month hell. Screenwriter Nunnally Johnson typically completes scripts in 10 weeks. Darryl Zanuck assigns him The Desert Fox, expecting the usual quick turnaround. 8 months later, Johnson finally delivers a shootable script after the most difficult writing experience of his career. The problem isn't the source material. The problem is the political minefield. Every scene requires careful navigation. Johnson must make Rommel sympathetic without glorifying Nazism. He must acknowledge Rommel's service to Hitler while emphasizing his eventual betrayal. He must satisfy the State Department's requirement that the film serve American Cold War interests while also working as commercial entertainment. The State Department vets every draft. Officials read each revision, noting dialogue that might prove problematic for diplomatic relations. They demand changes. Johnson revises. They demand more changes. He revises again. The process becomes exhausting. Zanuck rejects multiple drafts. The producer wants a tighter focus on Rommel's final year. Johnson strips out entire sequences and restructures the narrative. By the time Johnson finishes, he's spent 8 months on a project that should have taken 10 weeks. Number 14. Hathaway's obscenity-filled tirades. Director Henry Hathaway doesn't want author Desmond Young anywhere near the set. Young wrote the biography that inspired the film. Fox hires him as a consultant and casts him as himself. But Hathaway finds Young's presence intolerable. The British military officer keeps offering unsolicited opinions about historical accuracy. Hathaway responds by screaming obscenities until Young retreats. Hathaway is notorious for his explosive temper and profane tirades, but even by his standards, his treatment of Young stands out for sustained hostility. Young approaches the set politely, intending to offer helpful context about Rommel's actual behavior. Hathaway unleashes a torrent of profanity. He doesn't want historical context. He wants drama. James Mason watches the confrontations with amusement. The British actor gets along well with Young. Mason later describes mediating between Hathaway's volcanic temperament and Young's wounded dignity as one of the stranger aspects of production. Young learns quickly to stay away from the set unless absolutely necessary. Number 13. Luther Adler plays Hitler. Fox casts Luther Adler, a Jewish actor from a prominent Jewish theatrical family, to play Adolf Hitler. The choice is deliberate and provocative. Adler's father founded the Yiddish Art Theater. Everyone in Hollywood knows Adler is Jewish. And now he's playing the man who orchestrated the Holocaust. Adler approaches the role with professional detachment. The performance he delivers is chilling precisely because he doesn't caricature. Adler's Hitler is calm, rational, even charming before his paranoia emerges. But the casting provokes controversy within Jewish communities. Some view it as courageous reclamation. Others find it deeply troubling. Adler himself refuses to discuss the emotional toll publicly. Those who work with him on set notice his discomfort. Between takes, Adler sheds the Hitler persona immediately, as if the character physically repels him. The performance earns critical recognition, but Adler never plays Hitler again. Despite the acclaim, he seems to have no interest in repeating the experience. Number 12. Mason's downward slide reversal. James Mason's Hollywood career is dying when The Desert Fox saves it. The British actor arrived in America in 1947 as one of Britain's biggest stars. But 4 years later, his American films have underperformed. Hollywood doesn't know what to do with his brooding intensity and clipped British accent. Mason reads Desmond Young's biography and sees opportunity. He lobbies Darryl Zanuck aggressively for the role. Zanuck initially resists, considering Kirk Douglas and Richard Widmark, both bigger box office draws, but Mason persists, arguing that his Britishness actually helps. Rommel was educated, cultured, a professional soldier. Mason's refined bearing suits that characterization better. Zanuck eventually agrees but demands security. He offers Mason the role only if the actor signs a 7-year contract with Fox. Mason needs the work. The Desert Fox becomes his first major American hit. The success leads directly to better roles. 5 Fingers, Julius Caesar, A Star is Born, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Number 11. Crowther's scathing review. Bosley Crowther of the New York Times eviscerates The Desert Fox in a review dripping with contempt. The most influential film critic in America attacks its fundamental premise as morally corrupt and historically dishonest. Crowther's central argument: the film whitewashes a Nazi general to serve Cold War propaganda purposes. He acknowledges that Rommel participated in the July 20th assassination plot, but he notes that Rommel served Hitler loyally for years before that, commanding forces that killed Allied soldiers. One late-war act of conscience doesn't erase years of complicity. The review specifically targets the film's treatment of Rommel's North Africa campaigns. The Desert Fox portrays those battles as honorable combat between professional soldiers, ignoring the broader context of Axis aggression and Nazi genocidal policies. The Times review influences other critics and intellectuals. Fox had hoped critical praise would counteract protest and boycott efforts. Instead, the nation's most important critic validates the protesters' concerns. Number 10. Germany's 9-month delay. The Desert Fox premieres in America in October 1951. It doesn't open in West Germany until August 1952, a 9-month delay that costs Fox significant revenue. The delay results from direct pressure by the State Department and American occupation authorities. American officials in Germany face a delicate situation. Elections approach. Chancellor Konrad Adenauer supports rearmament and North Atlantic Treaty Organization membership, but the Social Democratic opposition campaigns against military revival. Into this volatile environment, Fox wants to release a film glorifying a Wehrmacht field marshal. State Department cables express alarm. The timing couldn't be worse. If the film opens before elections, it might energize nationalist sentiment in ways that hurt Adenauer. Fox resists the delay. German distribution rights have been sold. Theater bookings exist. But state makes clear that American interests supersede Fox profits. The studio reluctantly agrees to wait. When the film finally opens in Germany in August 1952, the political situation has shifted enough that objections evaporate. Number 9. State Department script approval. Before Nunnally Johnson writes a single word of dialogue, the State Department and the United States Commissioner for Germany must authorize the project. This isn't informal consultation. It's official vetting. Fox submits plot outlines and character descriptions to government officials who evaluate whether the film serves American foreign policy interests. The authorization process reveals how thoroughly Cold War politics infiltrate Hollywood production. State officials see strategic value in Rommel rehabilitation. As America pushes for West German rearmament and North Atlantic Treaty Organization integration, portraying Wehrmacht officers as honorable professionals betrayed by Hitler helps overcome Allied reluctance to see Germans in uniform again. The authorization shapes every aspect of the script. Johnson can't portray Rommel as a Nazi true believer. He can't show Rommel participating in war crimes. He must emphasize Rommel's professional ethics, his chivalrous treatment of prisoners, his growing disillusionment with Hitler. This level of government involvement in commercial filmmaking would be controversial if widely publicized in 1951. Number 8. Rommel's widow as consultant. Fox hires Lucy Rommel, the Field Marshal's widow, as a consultant. She provides personal details about her husband's character that help James Mason develop a more intimate portrayal. Her involvement gives the film an aura of authenticity. Who better to verify accuracy than the woman who knew Rommel best? But Lucy Rommel's participation also serves her own interests. By 1950, she's engaged in protecting and enhancing her husband's reputation. She's not an objective historian. She's a widow fighting to ensure her husband is remembered as a tragic hero rather than a Nazi enabler. Lucy emphasizes Rommel's later opposition to Hitler while downplaying his earlier loyalty. She describes his participation in the July 20th plot in detail. She provides anecdotes showing Rommel's humanity. These stories are true, but they're carefully selected to present a specific image. What she doesn't discuss: Rommel's enthusiastic service to the Nazi regime throughout the 1930s and early 1940s. Fox doesn't interrogate her bias. Number 7. Desert Victory stock footage. The Desert Fox incorporates extensive footage from Desert Victory, a 1943 British documentary about Montgomery's defeat of Rommel at El Alamein. Fox licenses the archival material to create battle sequences without filming expensive combat scenes. The footage looks spectacular. It's also propaganda from Rommel's enemies being repurposed to glorify him. British filmmakers made Desert Victory to celebrate Allied triumph over the Afrika Korps. Now, 8 years later, that same footage gets edited into a film that makes Rommel the sympathetic protagonist. Henry Hathaway intercuts the documentary material with stage scenes of James Mason as Rommel watching battles. The technique creates apparent continuity between real combat footage and fictional character moments. Some British veterans object to their victory footage being repurposed to glorify their former enemy. The complaint has merit. The images were created as propaganda against Rommel. Using them in a pro-Rommel film perverts their original purpose. What looks like objective documentary evidence is actually recycled propaganda edited to serve a completely different political agenda. Number 6. Mannerheim's Mercedes gift. The Mercedes that appears as Rommel's staff car has a bizarre history. It's a Mercedes-Benz 770, Hitler's personal gift to Finnish Marshal Carl Gustaf Emil Mannerheim. Fox borrows the Mercedes from its American owner for filming. The car's provenance adds dark authenticity to production design. This isn't a generic period vehicle. It's an actual Mercedes that Hitler personally gave to a foreign military leader. But using Mannerheim's Mercedes also raises questions about how far Fox will go to serve the Rommel rehabilitation narrative. The car directly connects to Nazi diplomatic strategy and the broader Axis alliance. It's a physical artifact of Hitler's regime, and Fox proudly uses it as a glamorous prop in a film designed to make Nazi officers seem honorable. The Mercedes serves another purpose. It helps sell the film's visual authenticity. Production designer Lyle Wheeler obsesses over period accuracy. Having an actual Mercedes from the correct era that Hitler actually gave to a military leader creates visual credibility. Number 5. First film's cold open. The Desert Fox opens with action before credits, a technique now ubiquitous in cinema but virtually unprecedented in 1951. Henry Hathaway begins the film with Desmond Young encountering Rommel in North Africa. Only after this opening sequence do the credits roll. Standard practice in 1951 required films to open with credits. Hathaway's decision to show story first and credits second reversed this established order. The choice reflects Hathaway's background in newsreels and documentaries. He understands how to grab attention immediately. For a film marketing itself as historically authentic, starting like a newsreel enhances the documentary feel. The technique proves so effective that other filmmakers adopt it. By the late 1950s, cold opens become increasingly common. By the 1960s, the James Bond series makes it a signature element. The Desert Fox doesn't invent the technique, but Hathaway's use in a major studio production helps popularize it. Number 4. Rennie dubs Young's narration. Desmond Young appears throughout The Desert Fox as himself, providing narration. But the voice audiences hear isn't always Young's. British actor Michael Rennie dubs significant portions of the narration because Young's voice doesn't record well or his delivery lacks dramatic polish. The dubbing creates a strange problem. Young is playing himself in a film about his book about Rommel. He appears on screen looking like himself, presented as the actual Desmond Young, but the voice coming from his mouth belongs to Michael Rennie. The authenticity is fake. Fox doesn't advertise Rennie's involvement. Promotional materials present Young as narrating his own story. The dubbing remains invisible to audiences. The invisible dubbing demonstrates Hollywood's casual relationship with authenticity. Fox markets the film as featuring the actual biographer, telling Rommel's real story. But when reality doesn't serve dramatic purposes, the studio manufactures a better version without informing audiences. Number 3. Creating the Rommel Myth. The Desert Fox plays a crucial role in creating what historians call the Rommel Myth, the sanitized legend of an honorable German general who fought cleanly, opposed Hitler, and represented the best of German military tradition. The myth serves Cold War political purposes but distorts historical reality. The actual Rommel was more complicated. He served Hitler loyally through most of the war. He commanded forces that killed thousands of Allied soldiers. His participation in the July 20th plot was peripheral. But the Desert Fox strips away complexity to create a clean narrative. Honorable soldier corrupted by evil leader, who eventually redeems himself through opposition. This simplified story serves multiple purposes. It helps Americans accept German rearmament by suggesting Wehrmacht tradition can be separated from Nazism. It provides German audiences with a palatable version of their military history. The film's influence on Rommel's historical reputation is enormous. Before 1951, Rommel was simply a defeated German general. After The Desert Fox, he becomes a tragic hero. Historians spend the next 70 years trying to complicate the Rommel myth that Fox helps create. But popular culture largely ignores these nuances. The myth proves more durable than facts. Number 2. Douglas and Widmark rejected. Before James Mason secures the role, Darryl Zanuck considers Kirk Douglas and Richard Widmark for Rommel. Both actors are bigger box office draws in 1950, but both present problems that ultimately make Mason the better choice. Kirk Douglas brings intense energy and American masculinity, but his aggressive acting style and obvious Americanness don't fit Rommel. The real Field Marshal was cultured, reserved, old-world European in manner. Douglas projects New World vigor. The mismatch would be obvious. Richard Widmark's breakout role in Kiss of Death established him as a psychotic villain. Audiences still associate him with menace. Casting him as Rommel would emphasize the general's Nazi associations rather than downplaying them. Mason brings British refinement, theatrical training, and physical features that suggest European aristocratic bearing. The casting decision reveals how thoroughly the Desert Fox was calibrated to serve its Rommel rehabilitation agenda. Douglas or Widmark might have made commercially successful Rommel films, but neither would have achieved the sympathetic humanization that Cold War politics demanded. Number 1. Box office success despite controversy. Despite international protests, boycotts, canceled bookings, scathing reviews, and political controversy, The Desert Fox becomes a significant commercial success. The film earns $2,400,000 in domestic box office, making it the fourth biggest Fox release of 1951. The success comes despite substantial obstacles. Harry Warner's boycott blocks the film from hundreds of theaters. Jewish organizations picket screenings in major cities. Critics like Bosley Crowther savage the film's historical whitewashing. Yet, Fox makes money. The subject matter attracts controversy, which generates publicity. Audiences curious about the protests buy tickets to judge for themselves. James Mason's performance receives widespread praise. The production values are first-rate. Henry Hathaway delivers a tightly paced thriller. The foreign box office eventually makes the film even more profitable. After the 9-month delay, German audiences embrace their sanitized Rommel. The financial success sends Hollywood a clear message. Controversial historical subjects can work commercially if handled carefully. The film proves that Cold War propaganda can coexist with profitable entertainment. The Desert Fox succeeded commercially despite international protests because Darryl Zanuck understood that controversy generates publicity and that political calculations can align with profit motives. The film that Jewish organizations boycotted became Fox's fourth biggest hit of 1951. The portrayal that historians reject as whitewashing established the template for every sympathetic Nazi depiction since. The film reminds us that cinema shapes historical memory as powerfully as scholarship, that Cold War politics infiltrated every aspect of American culture, and that sometimes the most influential films are the ones that trade truth for strategic narrative. Fox made Rommel a tragic hero to serve North Atlantic Treaty Organization alliance building. That version of history proved more durable than facts.